After spaying a couple of dogs in the village of Ensenada, Chuft and Karl left Isla Canas behind and we headed to Punta Cocos, which was about 13 to 15 miles down south. We were anchored in a super protected bay, but I forgot to take up the mainsail at anchor, so once I got out it got really choppy and it was quite a hassle to get the main up, but it was a real good training as well. We're in an anchorage that is called Punta Coco, and it's a little bit roly-poly, but it's definitely better than what we've had today outside when we were sailing-ish / motor sailing. We were in a really protected bay the last 2 or 3 nights, so we picked up anchor and we left our little protected bay, and well, you could tell already that it was a little bit more windy outside. And well, in the end we were beating into 20-25 knots of wind. All in all, I know it's never super clever to beat into shit like that, but for me it was kind of like a good preparation to, you know, see how everything's going and to see how the boat's doing, how I'm doing. And also because Chuft was still bodybuilding with me, so it gives you a little bit more of a confidence, like if something happens. It was good. I felt good. I felt on top of my shit. Karl was doing super well. Big Red was doing super well. And yeah. After a fairly rolly night at anchor, we left Punta Cocos the next morning in the search for a slightly more protected anchor bay. We're on our way from Punta Cocos to San Jose, and it's definitely calmer than yesterday. There's still a couple of waves standing, but the wind has calmed down a lot. It's a beautiful sunny day. And now when we come around the corner, we should be able to sail a little bit, as it seems like. Yeehaw! It felt so good to finally switch off the engine and just feel Karl cruise over the waves just by natural force. Beautiful 13 knots of wind, and just sailing with full genoa and full main, doing some good 4 knots. Not too shabby. fine. I see like a front passing by, and I'm not sure if it's gonna hit me or not because sometimes it's hard to tell which way they travel. Then I just put a second reef into the main just for, you know, precaution, just for safety, because even now it doesn't hit me, you know, it's easy to take it back out, and if it does hit me, Tyrrell and the Jana is fairly simple and I can do it from the cockpit, but you know, I don't want to be up in the front necessarily having to reef in the middle of a storm. So that's what I just did, put a second reef in, also to, you know, groove back into all the movements, the maneuvers, and you know, get my sea legs back. And my main is fairly small anyway, so even now we're still doing 3.3, so didn't actually lose that much.
The engine did just start then. She sounded a bit sick though, so we'll see how we go. Hopefully we can keep her long enough to anchor.
Alright, good. Well, fingers crossed. I'll hang out here until you're anchored just in case.
Thanks, Nika.
It was a little crazy not to be the one with a failing engine for once and actually being the one standing by to give a hand if needed. This engine repower project was one of the best ideas I've had in the last 4 years, I think. Looks like the engine is back on. Just letting them anchor first in case something happens again, so I can stand by. Yeah, so see this 3.5 meter one? There's just a crazy breaker always going above that, so I went in the north of this and the south of that, and Chuff went in the north, and now we're gonna anchor here. It took me about an hour to find a spot with good holding in our new anchorage, and I had a little close to sinking incident with Karl, but more about that maybe some other time. Since the new anchorage was even more rolly that night, we moved just 3 miles further north the next morning, and we're finally happy with our new home and jumped into Prod and Possum and paddled to shore. The existence of a resort with Wi-Fi on this private island had lured us into a 2-hour hot and sweaty hike with all our digital nomads office gear. Captain Joe, we're going left or right?
Oh, I don't put it in my mouth. What if it's poisonous?
I thought you wanted to eat it.
What if it's poisonous? Exactly, Joel.
Well, everything else is eating it, so it must not be poisonous.
No, that's not a good way.
But that's not really how you can tell.
Oh, it tastes good. Yeah. It's really sweet, actually.
I'm not going to taste it.
Let's see how he's doing when we get there, and then maybe on the way back.
He looks a little bit sweaty and red, doesn't he?
No,
Well, I look sweaty and red, and I haven't eaten the fruit yet, so... Since we weren't allowed to stay on San Jose, we took up anchor once again and sailed over to Isla Gonzalez, which was about 15 miles away. But more about that next week.